to the Cosplay Sanctuary Podcast, Season 2, Rebirth. This is your host, Scotty B. So glad that you could get here for the season, and thank you so much for paying attention to and tuning into the first two episodes. We had some amazing guests with Joey the Beast McCoy and Ted Khaleesi. Please do make sure to check them out on YouTube for the channel, and be sure to listen to the podcast. Of course, we had many dailies, and I'm very excited. This is the first solo cast that we've been able to do in a while, that we get to go into some depth and discussion. I guess I'll be talking to myself, but I do want to say, getting started with Season 2, thanks so much to all my guests who have been providing their stories, and of course always a safe place for you to share your stories, your insights, and all of those things that make this industry go round. Thank you so much for all of you and what you do. It's so great to hear from you, and you are inspiring for sure for me and for the community. Thank you so much. And here we are to find the white space. As I have mentioned many times before in the past, that this is the everything industry, and I've heard it said from other people before. And I've heard that said for many different reasons because of what goes into cosplay. You are innovators, you are creators, you create videos and photography, and you're into editing, and there are aspects of marketing and just being on in front of people at cons, on panels, on live streams, everywhere and anywhere that you are right now, whether it is going live or doing a reel on Instagram or Twitch TV or your YouTube channel or going live in Super Chat, wherever you are cosplayers and those who create inside of this industry. This is what it's all about. Not everyone has to go down this path, but it is truly more than crafting a cosplay. There is so much to sharing fandom. Fandom is definitely a large part of it, and I feel that it is. I think that without the coming together for fandom, that there would not be this call to action from the community in everything that it does and puts together, that it really is taking pieces of what you love and coming together and sharing that with everyone and bringing your version of what you do into the cosplay universe. And what I mean by that is, a lot of people know how to do many things, but no one is an expert of every single thing that there is to do. Nobody is just good at every single thing. I mean, if there are people like that, great, but I certainly am not one of them. But what I do know that is important, and important from my mentor, and the reason why I am in this everything industry, is that it is important for me to share my story with you, and to do that in a way that is both informative for you, so whatever it is that I've learned in my journey, that I would be able to share that with all of you through this cast, through YouTube, through Twitch, through all of the things that I'm building, websites and all sorts of crazy stuff that's going on, in addition to that full-time 9-to-5 that we all have to deal with. You gotta make money somewhere, and for some people cosplay is the full-time, and of course it is certainly a tragedy right now what's happening everywhere with COVID-19 and with what has impacted the economy as a result of many shutdowns and many rearrangements and working from home, and a lot of compromises that are going on everywhere, which also makes it very hard to continue to create. We do what we can where we are with what we have, and that has always been the message on the show. It is a message that I've carried with me from my mentor, Sunny Lenarduzzi. I will shout her out on the show, even though she is not a cosplayer of any kind, and it is not her industry. I've learned so much from the people that I have encountered online and from the people inside of the industry over the last year, and it has been my privilege to grow inside of the community and to grow with this podcast and those people that I talk to inside of the community. So what really does it all lead to? Where does it all go? And what did I want to get into today in this show, as far as strategy and structure and focus and all of the things that surround going into the industry, and what do you do? Like, what if you have that drive, if you have that connection with your fandom and with what you are building. One story that I would like to share as far as influencer marketing is concerned is what I've seen. One example of something that has happened is I've actually seen people quitting cosplay, but not because they don't like it or that it is something that is no longer a part of them in any way, shape, or form, but that they are starting to realize that they are creators at their core. They're creators, they're YouTubers, they are something other than just what they are creating inside of cosplay, though that is for many people the starting point, and for other people it is the point. It's a hobby for other people. It can mean many things to many people, but what I've seen is people literally burning their costumes and starting over in another venue, or going down a road that says creator, that says maker, but not necessarily only in the context of cosplay. So for the intents of my podcast, the context will always be for cosplayers, but former cosplayers or anybody who is attached to the industry in some way, of course, we want to make sure that we are providing value with the show, not just being a show. I'm not here to be here. I'm not here to gain attention for any other reason than to teach, inspire, and provide information for people who are looking to use what my knowledge provides for them in some constructive way. Like, I am hoping that you get something out of what I am talking about on the show, the everything industry, and getting into fandom and getting into cosplay, and really what can you become with your cosplay. A lot of it builds into influencer marketing, and a lot of the skills that you build inside of cosplay focus on self-branding. Whether you're calling it that or not, that's what I'm calling it. This is a brand that you build around yourself in an online space or otherwise in the real. I mean, if we ever get back to cons, let's hope we do. But this is what you build, and this is what you become. And for some people, this is what you want, and some don't. But for those of you who do, okay, let's say influencer marketing. So there are metrics that go into becoming an influencer. And what are you influencing? You're influencing the choices, the goods and services that your audience is looking at or paying attention to or gaining interest in. And why are they doing that? Because you're interested in it, because you're showing that to them. They are paying attention to what you are doing, and when they know, like, and trust you, and you then align yourself with a partner or a brand, or you have your own thing that you want other people to be interested in. So if you're creating t-shirts or different cosplays, if you're a maker of some kind and you're selling props or you're selling batarangs or whatever the case may be, that becomes the piece of interest. So they're interested in you, and a lot of times people almost expect that they're going to go online and they're going to see what you do, and they're like, okay, so where's the thing? Like, what are we buying from this? Or is there really not, is it really just the photography and the hobby that is the most important thing about your brand and how you represent yourself online? Yes, I understand marketing. Yes, what I do is influenced heavily by the marketing world, but that doesn't mean that it has to be this really evil, sinister thing that happens in the background that, yes, I'm trying to manipulate your brains into making a purchase, or eventually I'll write some kind of a book and then you will be such crazed fans that you'll just buy it, whether it has any value or not. You'll just want it because of me. No, that's not really where I want to go with any of this. It's really to educate and inform those who are a little unsure, uncertain, or don't really know if this is something that will work for them. Like, what's the point? Why am I doing this? So it's really looking for that why. One thing that you can do if you are using cosplay skills and building options for a brand to do this. Of course, there are some background things that you might want to check into depending on how far along you've gotten, because there are legal implications, there are tax implications that will come up, and that is going to be different everywhere, and I'm so sorry that I cannot talk tax and talk law on this podcast. You'd be bored to tears, and I would probably make so many mistakes talking to you about that because those are not my strengths. I am not an accountant or an attorney, so I do not have the privilege of talking to you about those two things, but figuring out the two components of business that are very, very important besides finance. Well, taxes really is the financial component of that. I mean, it's part of that, but figuring out law and how you fit into the world with that, how to deal with situations as they come up in negotiating in contracts, and large brands that may be interested in you, and how they may actually take advantage of the fact that they may think that you do not know what the rules are, and that they could get you to sign something that you barely look at. So I try to be, and I guess I can just tell you right now, if you're a guest on my show, there are forms, and if you want to go down that road of let's make a deal, we sure can. Like, that's something that I've looked at before, but just remember that it is something that I work very hard on, as I am sure you are with your brands, something that I work very hard on, and it isn't like we are going to, for one collaboration, come up with a structure that's completely lopsided where you end up with 3/4 of my brand or business. Like, that doesn't really make any sense for a one shot. You know, if we're gonna, like, okay, let's build a business together, and there's going to be investment capital, and there's going to be a business plan, and we're going to, like, get some space or a studio, and we're gonna really go down this road, that's a partnership, and of course there would be paperwork for that. But in terms of, like, a collaboration, like, you probably do want some sort of agreement, or at least on the understanding that if you're going on a podcast or show or something like that, you probably do want something that covers, this is what I'm expected to do, this is what you're expected to do, here's what's going to happen afterwards. Like, if there's no discussion around that, you might be a little bit upset, or you might be a little bit concerned about how you are being used and interpreted on someone else's show, or even, just that person might have the exact same thoughts and feelings. So just make sure you're upfront. Like, I try to be upfront. Here is what I do. Here is what we will collaborate on. It is in this scope within, we work for an hour, we create and produce this, and I do 90% of the work, or at least I try to. And I would rather have that discussion beforehand than, oh, we just got done, and oh yeah, by the way, I'm just going to blast this all over the place, and I'm going to throw your image everywhere, and I'm going to, what will look like, bring people into my brand and my community and my YouTube and my this and my that because of you. Like, I'm going to, like, leverage your following to try and get more people to look at me, and that really isn't what I'm about. That isn't what I do with this. This is also a piece of being an influencer, is circulating. So by going on podcasts, by being on YouTube channels, by, in some cases, being on Netflix and Amazon Prime, or whatever the case may be, if you're on a show or a talk show, or you're being asked to do things, like, make sure that you're relatively cool about what you are going to do. And in my world, it's not just about me. Like, I'm not going to go and do something because it's going to be so wonderful for me. I like to collaborate with people on this level because it's they're interesting. It's like, what you're doing is interesting. I enjoy talking to you about cosplay and about the things that go into cosplay. It's a two-way street, so that I can provide something for you that maybe you didn't know about or weren't thinking about, and vice versa. So I am a terrible cosplayer at the moment. I need all the help I can get, and the more that I do this, the more I learn about the industry and about what goes into it, and there's so much. And that's really the point of the whole episode, is talking about this industry that covers so much ground. It is ridiculous how many skills that you can build inside of cosplay, other than just becoming a very fantastic makeup, costume, wig, and foam smith, and all, so being a seamstress, like, tailor. Know that if you are a cosplayer, there's probably quite a few things that you are good at that translate into other industries. So By cosplaying, you become better at makeup and modeling and stunt work, filming, videography, photography. You're getting in front of a camera. You are putting together stunts in some cases. You're moving around. You're getting comfortable with being in front of people. This is possibly entertainment. There might be some aspects of athletics and fitness that go into this. There's prop making, there's lighting, and there's business involved with this. And you also have streaming, you have Twitch, and you have YouTube and other channels where you can grow an audience and gain attention. Cosplayers are taking up quite a bit of real estate inside of social media. There is a really good niche that is being built inside of this space that has definitely changed. Recently, I think that the push to learn how to do this online, if you're a cosplayer, has grown tremendously because of COVID, because of the fact that there aren't any cons coming for a while. We've got at least a few more months before anything opens back up again. And I don't know, the first one, like, I can't imagine, like, the first one is going to be so crazy, and they'll probably have so many limits and restrictions on space and how many people can be in a room and how many people can be at anywhere, and will any celebrities or will any guests really want to show up, and if they do, they're all going to be wearing it's just going to be madness when it opens back up. You're probably going to want to wait, just like you do when the pool opens back up the first day of summer, and the first nice day is, yeah, it'd be great to go, except there won't be anywhere to swim. So I will wait a couple of weeks until that dies off. It's the same like with the gym right around New Year's, like everybody's resolution to lose weight and go to the gym and hit it hard, and you can't even get on a stationary bike. You can't do anything because there's so many people that want to go back. And I think it'll be the same effect with cosplay. That first con, whoever gets that first one or the first wave of cons that open back up, they're just gonna be like, oh, we're going to make just an absolute killing with this con. They'll probably still have to have an online version just because there will just be no floor space, or there will be so many, again, restrictions that floor space will be limited. They'll only let so many people in. So it'll be different. And you will be different because of all of the work that you've been doing inside of the industry while all of this stuff has been going on. If you are a cosplayer and building a following, brands may want to search for you for potential influencers to promote their product services or jump on their feeds, which is you might end up promoting on a brand's Instagram or their YouTube or something like that. Like, it depends on how high this goes or how far your reach is or whatever the case may be. Oftentimes, the bigger brands are going to do their research, the smaller ones not necessarily. Venues don't necessarily do the research on your following and things like that. Not that it is really all about that, but when you do get to a certain level or you have a certain amount of experience, you can put in for things like this, or people might find you and reach out to you for these sort of brand collaborations. This is also known as selling out in some arenas. So you are a cosplayer, you are promoting a fandom. Now you are using that fandom to also promote, well, you can't really use the fandom, but let's say your version of the fandom that becomes a brand is now promoting product, service, adding value, teaching, PSAs, different things, that you're becoming a spokesperson or you're becoming a model or you're becoming something else. How far you stray from cosplay as a result of that is entirely up to you. I am only here as a member of the journey, so if there is a gap to be bridged with this white space that I call marketing inside of cosplay, then we will bridge that, and I will help you understand a little bit better how this can work with larger corporations, or to stay away from the people in the middle. If the company's not big enough and doesn't have enough experience with what they really want to do with you, and you are also lost, this could be a bad combination of experience. What you do want is a group that's relatively straightforward and knows what they're doing, like they've worked with other people before. So really, just like with anything else, whoever approaches you, do your homework. If you cannot find anything on the brand or the person or whomever is reaching out to you, if like they don't exist online or if they just don't exist, be very wary, especially if they don't have anything for you to sign. Like, ask for that. Like, where's the scope? Very common, especially with like contracting positions. Like if you're not being hired by a brand, because you're probably not, because you're an influencer, this is a marketing deal and they are reaching out to you to gain more of who you have in your audience. So also something very important to pay attention to in this everything industry are the everything people. Are you attracting a certain type of people, and was that your intention? So do you understand your avatar, the person who is out there, the person that you are going after to target and pay attention to what you are doing? Have you dialed that in? Or are you simply collecting followers, which could be bots, which could be anything under the sun, which could be, in like TikTok world, you can gain 100,000 followers in a very short amount of space with very little content. That may not add any value for what you are trying to do. In general, if you are selling something that everyone uses, if you have 1 million people following you, then there's probably going to be people that a brand would consider or a company would consider to be useful to them. So if a shoe company, for example, comes up to you and you have like 2.5 million people following you on TikTok, they will probably be like, okay, let's talk. Or perhaps you will be reaching out to them, or that you want something out of that. But remember, TikTok is not monetized and might be going away or getting bought. So there might be some changes going on there. But you have other spaces where you can continue to grow, like Reels. But Instagram, again, does not have that reach that TikTok does. It's different. Twitch is the same. The reach is very different, as is YouTube. I trust YouTube a little bit more as far as the consistency for the reach of your content, but it is a long road, and some people aren't very comfortable with that. They want quicker results, and I would say quick results with a self-brand require a lot of intense work. It's a long road for me. It is definitely a journey. I am not looking for a quick hit win. In any stretch of the imagination, I have a lot to learn. If you have already learned that, great. What I have also seen is that influencers can get so big on a platform, or they can come into a new platform for social media, that the social media company itself reaches out to those influencers for deals within the platform or to promote the platform. Look for that, because social media is more or less dominated by a handful of platforms. So when a new one comes along, it is definitely not going to be the big fish, and it has to do something relatively innovative in order to bring more people in. The thing about that is the new platforms generally have a lot more exposure for incoming people because they want more people to be on the platform. And I've mentioned this before in podcasts. Feel free to go back to last season and listen to a little bit more about this. I might even explain it a little bit better here. The thing about new is it's unproven. You're not really sure about it. There's not a high level of adoption at the beginning, but that's every platform. And of course, at the beginning, there's always a lot more reach. So if you already have your game on one platform and you're not getting what you want out of that, or you're getting flat in terms of what you want to grow to, you can always go to a new platform, or one may just pop up. Check that out, see what happens there. My other thought is that you generally just want to stick to a couple or one and see what happens over time. The brand itself, though, if you can gain traction on a platform where you understand what you're doing and it's totally aligned with the social media platform that you're working on, the brand may just come to you. The social media platform may come to you. And I know this happens with Vero. Vero is great, many aspects of it. Some of it, I do have, again, another show where I go over Vero, but it will reach out, and specifically cosplayers, Vero reaches out to cosplayers for cons, for online events, to become influencers for its platform. That is true. Why more cosplayers are not looking to Vero, just because it is a little bit more work. Instagram has more options for sure. It keeps building and building because it's related to Facebook, but the return on all the work that you do there might be about the same as Vero, but you might find that you gain a lot more traction because you're really only dealing with one dimension of hashtags, and there is just a lot more that people can find in that space. Like it's not as crowded. What you like about that, or how you deal, like how you grow on that platform, might be a little bit different. So my thoughts with this really are to work in two areas, which are the most prominent on your brand channel. If you are on Instagram, go with niche industries that are close in terms of product or services that would be used in cosplay. This you probably have already thought about and probably already made sense to you. But if you choose something that is in the world of cosplay, this can be many different things. But if you have a brand that is already built into fandom in some way, so products that are already connected with upcoming movies or other events that you can get, soft drinks or concessions or different sort of snacks or small products that are already working into a venue. So if you have something like, let's say, DC fandom that came up not too long ago, DC itself, or perhaps there's a company that's looking to gain a little bit of traction with the same group. They're looking for DC, so you are an extension of that if you are a DC cosplayer or just a cosplayer in general. Now you know that brand at least is dialed into fandom as a means for which to develop its customer base or expand it. So there is some common ground there, and I would always say look for the companies with common grounds. The ones that I would say don't deal with, like ones that don't have a very large footprint on Instagram in the first place, that have nothing to do with cosplay. Smaller companies, smaller manufacturing companies, for sure. Of course, you're probably like, well, I would never go there anyways. Well, when you're looking around, sometimes it's a little hard to tell, if you don't do your homework, what it is exactly that some of these manufacturers do, or that they are distributors masquerading as manufacturers, or they're just getting into a bunch of different things and just trying different things. That can happen a lot too. Or they're just like enamored with social media in general, but there's not a lot of traction. You can also see this, the parity between, let's say, an athletic brand and cosplay. There could be something there because they're looking for influencers and people who want that sort of apparel or those sort of products. That could maybe work. Look for companies that already have their face across platforms and look at what they're doing online. Look at their user interface on their website. Look at how their ads are. Like, is it close to things that you're doing? Is it way over your head? Is it anything that you're even interested in? Make sure that you're at least interested, so that when you are, like, if you don't genuinely like something, it can possibly be very strained for you to promote something like that on your channel in your space. So for me, monetizing the podcast, which has crossed my mind, and there are ways to do this, and turning on YouTube ads and things like that, things that I'm basically opposed to. I really don't want it to just crowd everything, because every time there's an ad that's run, there's a chance that somebody could walk away from you or unsubscribe if they just go, okay, this guy sold out. So be very, very careful with that. And if it isn't like generating thousands and thousands of dollars for you, if it's like $10 here and $10 there, like Ko-fi may not be the thing for you, but for someone else it could work really well. That you just have to be very careful wherever you are going and building a stream of income, that it makes sense for you. Also pay attention to branding strategy and see if any of their people, so like if you're looking for a brand on Instagram, look to see if there's anybody with the hashtags that are being used that come up, or just know their officers, or know the people that are already promoting their stuff, their services, their products. See how those people fit with you. Follow those people, understand those people, get in front of the faces that are in front of the brands. Look for the people who have already been influencers, or the people who are in that space for that company. If there's no face on the company, that can get a little bit dicey too if you just become that face. If they're not in front of the camera, if they're not in front of their own stuff, and it's really just the product all the time, and now they're trying to jump over onto influencers, and use them for their brand, but there's like no face to the company, or there's just one picture on a website, that might be something you want to back away from. Just be careful how to get a hold of people and brands, depending on who you're talking to. Be brief, be sure, and be flexible. So being brief, when you send a message to somebody, get your thoughts together in what you are giving them or what your why is for reaching out to them in a very concise way. I wouldn't mention, hey, do you want to pay me to do something for you? Like, be very specific. Just, I'm reaching out because I'm interested in what you do. I use your products. I think it's really cool. Maybe there's something that we can align with here. I have this many followers, or I'm on this many platforms. I spend, you don't have to go into a great amount of detail there, but just whatever your biggest platform is, say, I'm putting out 3 videos a week on YouTube and it's bringing in this many people. Whatever the case may be. This may be a little bit of an advanced tactic for some. It also, never feel like because you're a small influencer or a micro influencer on social media that you don't have any value to brands in general. They might also be pretty small, or they might be just looking for people who can get in front of groups of people, because people lead to people. So start small. You don't have to, going after someone with 1 million followers as a brand may not be something that you want to bite off anyways. In my company brain, if I'm going to owner brain, I'm not necessarily reaching for the biggest person right away. Let's try it out with someone who's got under 100K or under 5K, or maybe somebody who's just started out on YouTube is really just looking to do something. Why not? Because you're just going to bring people into your feed and grow that audience that you're looking for. Just make sure that the market is aligned. So be brief, unlike me. Be sure that you are on the same page with what that company is about. Just be really sure, this is what I want to commit myself to. Think about it in terms of the 5 to 7 year picture. In 5 to 7 years, what will I think about myself doing this? Will I think this was ridiculous? Will I think I am so glad that I reached out to them? Just try and put yourself in that future set of shoes and think about the outcome. Sometimes you can second guess, or you'll make mistakes doing that, but that's okay. At least you gave it some thought. That's being sure. I am 100% sure, I want to reach out to these people and ask for this, because it's not always going to be no. You may surprise yourself that someone will say, okay, sure, call us, or okay, sure, yeah, let's do this, and they'll, what's your email? The more you send out messaging, the more you get into DMs and you ask, the more you're going to see come back. And be flexible. Whether you are a pro or not, whether you are paid or not, treat it like you're professional. Treat it like this is something that you want to do. This is like an audition. This is like a job interview. It's something that you want to get in front of somebody to develop your brand, work with theirs. It's getting you another step down the road. The reason for that is if you want to break into it and you want to make sure that you are on the same page and that the terms are something that you will agree with, but that you have a degree of flex, especially if you're new to that space, that you'll want the leeway to say, okay, well, I can compromise with this. Very often, a brand isn't necessarily going to give you a second chance. So if you aren't going to nail it the first time with what you said you were going to do, and if you're going to be completely inflexible, they're probably not going to ask for anything else. They're probably not going to recommend you to anyone else. It could lead to a dead end. You will learn from this, but it can be somewhat traumatic inside of your head if you try these things out and it does not work. And this, again, is high level. This is advanced stuff we're talking about here inside of this everything industry. Very different from things that I talk about inside of the interviews and those settings. So again, just really going deep, really talking a lot about how these things work and the agreements that you're going to get into. And again, I'm not an attorney. Make sure at a certain point that you take care of that for yourself and you have someone in your corner, whether that is your significant other or whether that is your legal team or whatever the case is, and you're probably thinking, a legal team? With this as a hobby, I don't have a legal team, and that's fine. Like, we're not, if we're just doing this as a hobby and to have fun, and it's about volunteering. But even for volunteering, just make sure that you know what you're getting yourself into and what the rules are, and that there is an agreement between you and the venue where you are volunteering, so that they're not just kind of stepping all over. That can happen, especially in volunteer situations when there's really no certainty. I mean, you can just walk away, but you've got to burn that bridge. Maybe it isn't something that you want to walk away from, but still, you should pay attention to yourself and your time, your energy, your resources that you are pouring into being a part of the hobby and the community and giving back. Why else is it the everything industry? Because it is everything that is trending. It's the mainstream culture. And generally, if it's trendy and it's cool, it's going to get cosplay's attention. So it's not just DC and Marvel. There are many other fandoms to support that cover everything from cartoons to nostalgia, and they're all represented in different ways. So there's a lot going on. And cosplayers are generally in front of the latest trends, the latest platforms, the things that are going to gain the most attention, and they pivot often. They're also going to be in front of the big current events and the things that are rocking the world. There's, it just seems like a group, from my observations, this is a group that knows when to zig or when to zag when everybody else is doing the opposite. So they are trend setting, and that is important from both sides or both perspectives to understand how all of that works and how media works and how you are reacting, or the kind of information that you're gaining from looking into cosplay. It's very interesting, and it's very fast. I mean, as soon as something's on Netflix, if it's cool, if it's going to get top billing or top marketing, or it's being pushed in everybody's face, like Witcher, like days after that came out, or not even before it came out, and it became a Netflix show, it became a thing. Like, it was, okay, we're cosplaying this, and that's where it stayed. Putting yourself out there can be a large part of cosplay. Being a fan is just about connection and starting a channel or creating a website or a podcast or literally creating art is something that we enjoy showing other people, and we enjoy seeing what other people have done and sharing that exchange of information. Do we always understand, for all of these different things that can be done, for all of these different pieces that could possibly be monetized, do we always do that, or do we always end up paying? There's a reason why we refer to it as cos-pay, because a lot of industries make a lot of money off of the people inside of the hobby, inside of the industry, who are doing this. It's expensive, because we're not just buying the cosplays, we're buying the toys, we're buying the comic books, we are going to the cons, we're buying the badges, we're buying a lot of digital items and things and games and systems, and there's a ton of consumerism that goes into this. You don't even think about it. You're just like, I want the thing. One thing that I hope to explore in the podcast and as we move through Rebirth is that question that I have of it being possible to create steady flows of income in cosplay, with cosplay at the heart of what you are doing, but still maintain your self-brand, yourself, as a part of all that. It does not become a job, but that it can become something bigger, that you can become part of an organization or even create an organization yourself that is centered in the cosplay industry. Remember, what you bring to the cosplay table is you. I have said that many times, and it is 100% true. What you do and how you succeed and how you find what you're looking for inside of cosplay is up to you. You define that, not me. I'm just offering some information. Listen or not, right or not, you need to stay true to you, and that is always the most important thing. In anything that you're building, be true to you. I don't want to make it just about building and gaining and the quest for expansion that many businesses end up turning to. If you're working on skills, if you're learning, if you're having fun, then that's where it is in this everything industry that we have made here. So that is all we have for you today. Thank you so much for returning to the Heroes of Cosplay Sanctuary. You can find me online on YouTube and Instagram. Look for me at Scotty B Official on Vero, and of course you can type into YouTube Heroes of Cosplay Sanctuary, and Instagram is at Heroes of Cosplay Sanctuary. I am HoCS Podcast on Twitter. If you would like to reach me there, I need to get a little bit more involved there. Of course, if you'd like to leave a review on the podcast or on iTunes, or if you have any questions, please reach out to me. You can email me about being on the show or any other questions that you may have, scottyb@hocspodcast.com. Again, that is hocspodcast.com. Be sure to tune in every Thursday for new podcasts this season and new videos every Friday on YouTube, which this season will be very different. Of course, if you'd like to support the show, you can find me on Ko-Fi and Patreon. I do leave the notes in the show notes. It's always nice, thank you, if you do. I will be building more and offering more through those platforms. One will be more behind the scenes, and the Patreon will be more for coaching and expertise. I am looking forward to building those things and having those available and offered for you. I'd like to talk about Kickstarter right now, but we are not quite there yet. But that is coming. So again, this is Scotty B for Heroes of Cosplay Sanctuary Podcast. Thanks so much for hanging out. Bye-bye.